Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I'm going to be going through every single conference tournament in college basketball. Some of these tournaments are done. We've got our first few auto bids, but many still have yet to kick off, and I'm going to be giving my analysis on each of these tournaments, starting with the American East. So you do have the number one overall seed, Vermont. We would heavily expect Vermont to win the American East and possibly be around a 13 or a 14 seed. There's really no one else in this bracket I would expect to win. The number 2 seed barely beat UMBC in overtime, so the American East should be Vermont's. Moving on to the American, very interesting here, the dynamics. South Florida, the number 1 seed, but right now, based off of their resume, they very likely need to win this tournament, you would think, to get in. They've got a pretty easy path, although maybe facing Memphis in the semi might be kind of challenging. UAB. You do have Florida Atlantic, the number 2 seed. Charlotte, the 3 seed. We would think Florida Atlantic would get in no matter what. Right now, kind of around the 8 or 9 line, but look at South Florida. They've got to win this tournament. If they lose, I think they're headed for the NIT. Moving on to the ACC, you've got North Carolina, the number 1 overall seed, after beating Duke. Duke is the 2 seed. I still like Duke to win this tournament personally. Pittsburgh, very important that they win at least a game, and they've got a tough draw, possibly facing one of the best analytics teams in the ACC in Wake Forest in a 5v4 matchup, and then maybe facing North Carolina, but those games for Pitt would still be winnable. If Pitt wins 2 games, they're guaranteed to make the tournament. You do have Virginia, another bubble team, possibly facing Clemson. They're in the 3rd round with a double bye. I like Duke in this tournament, even after the loss to North Carolina. That's the ACC there. Moving on to the ASUN. Congratulations are in order to Stenson University. What a random team to win. Stenson, they came in as a 2 seed. Nobody thought they would win this tournament. Analytically, it was Lipscomb or Eastern Kentucky, but mainly Lipscomb. Lipscomb loses in the 1st round, and Stenson, probably going to be a 16 seed. I'm going to be picking them over Purdue. Guys, I'm just kidding. Moving on to the A10, you do have Richmond, the number 1 overall seed in this tournament. Loyola Chicago jumps Dayton. Dayton's been the team that's been ranked in the A10 this entire year. They're the 3 seed in this tournament. Loyola Chicago, they've been playing well. We remember the Final Four run. Richmond possibly facing Loyola Chicago. I mean, you also do have Dayton there. This should be a fun little tournament. Can Dayton turn it around after the disappointing end to their season? We will have to see. Moving on to the Big East, you've got UConn as the clear favorite, the number 1 seed. St. John's. St. John's right now probably a first 4 team. Seton Hall, very similar. Actually, Seton Hall is in the tournament right now, I would say, but that's going to be a really good matchup. If Seton Hall loses to St. John's, they could fall to a first 4 team or maybe out of the tournament. St. John's, if they beat Seton Hall, you would figure they would be in. Obviously, if they beat UConn, they would be in. Very strange wrinkle with this tournament happening at Madison Square Garden. The committee is treating these games as home games for St. John's, which is very strange to me, but it's just kind of the idea of St. John's playing this tournament technically in their home arena. You do have Creighton as the number 2 seed. They will likely advance to the semifinal game because they're facing Providence or Georgetown, although Providence, we'll see. And then you do have Marquette as the 3 seed. Villanova, another team on the bubble. I mean, my goodness, DePaul, one of the worst Power 6 teams we've seen in history. Villanova needs to win that game, and then they've got a huge chance to upset Marquette. I do like UConn to win this tournament, if I'm being honest. Moving on to the Big Sky, Eastern Washington, the number 1 overall seed. They're going to be facing Sacramento State. I think Sacramento State might shock people and win this tournament after an impressive 1st round win over Idaho. I'm kidding. No, I don't know. I mean, I've seen, originally the team that analytically was the favorite was Weber State, and they are a 4 seed. They're going to be facing Montana State. So maybe it's Weber State that comes out of this conference and gets the auto bid. Moving on to the Big South, rest in peace to High Point. My goodness. So High Point was a team that profiled analytically extremely well. They had a major upset loss to Longwood, and Longwood trounced UNC Asheville in the conference tournament championship. Congratulations are in order to Longwood University for making the tournament. Moving on to the Big Ten, you do have Purdue, the number 1 overall seed, possibly facing Michigan State there. Very interesting 8-9 matchup, Michigan State versus Minnesota. Michigan State is losing constantly now here early in March. They're taking on significant water. They're still going to make the tournament because their analytics are so good, but my goodness, they're a very inconsistent team. I bet Purdue's probably not happy facing them in the first round. People have been joking that Penn State has an easy path, and technically they kind of do. You look at them in the bottom left facing Michigan. I mean, Michigan's had a horrible year. Indiana is beatable. I know Indiana had a great close to the season, and then Nebraska's another team that's very beatable. The most important matchup here, it's Iowa versus Ohio State. Loser is in the NIT. They're out of the tournament. The winner might have a chance. That is not a good draw for both Iowa and Ohio State. You wanted to avoid Illinois. You wanted to avoid Purdue. Neither of them are doing that. You wanted either Northwestern or Nebraska possibly in the double bye round on Friday. It's going to be very hard. Ohio State needs to beat Iowa, and then they need to beat Illinois. They do that. I think they're in the first 4 for sure. And then if they win in the semis, I'm guessing they're in the tournament probably as a 10 seed. They would vault up significantly. Jake Diebler, what a story. I think Purdue wins this tournament, though. They've just been the best Big Ten team all year long. Moving on to the Big 12, you do have Houston, the number 1 overall seed. No surprise there. Iowa State, the 2 seed. The narrative is there for Iowa State to lose early, guys. Probably lose in the first round. In terms of the NCAA tournament, when you're looking at this bracket, I mean, I love Houston. I really do. How about Texas Tech as a 4 seed in this bracket over BYU? That'll be an interesting matchup there. But the Big 12 is a very good conference for sure. I think Houston wins it. They've just been unbeatable recently. The Big West, you do have UC Irvine. Very elite season for them. The one team I would watch would be Long Beach State, but I think UC Irvine should take this tournament very easily, possibly be a 13 seed, and a lot of people picking them to upset someone and be a Cinderella in the first round. They profile extremely well. But again, the team I would look out for that has decent upside is Long Beach State, the number 4 seed there. I don't think UC Davis is a good 2 seed. Moving on to the Coastal Athletic Conference, you do have Charleston, the number 1 overall seed. I would really like to see, I'm not actually sure, because those games already happened, Drexel versus Stony Brook. I hope Drexel wins this tournament. If they've already lost, rest in peace. But yeah, Charleston is the favorite there. You do have Conference USA, so Sam Houston, yep, the number 1 overall seed. Louisiana Tech, the number 2 seed. A lot of people like Louisiana Tech. Analytically, Louisiana Tech is better than Sam Houston, and I would expect them to win this tournament relatively easily. Moving on to the Horizon, you can see Oakland, the number 1 overall seed. Cleveland State getting an upset win over Youngstown State. Youngstown State, a team I really liked coming into this tournament. They lose as the 2 seed in the first round. You would expect maybe Cleveland State uses that upset and catapults themselves. The Horizon is such a condensed league. And then how about the 5 seed versus 6 seed, Northern Kentucky versus Milwaukee? I think we get a championship of Cleveland State versus Milwaukee. Could you imagine that? The Horizon League. Moving on to the Ivy League, a very, very small bracket. I could see both lower seeds winning. I know everyone loves Princeton. Look what they did last year, beating Arizona. I like Brown taking on Cornell in the Ivy League championship. The Ivy League's been decent this year. These are 4 solid teams. Moving on to the Metro Atlantic tournament, it is Quinnipiac, the number 1 overall seed. But give me Fairfield to win this tournament and get the auto bid personally, very likely. The team who wins this is either going to be a 15 or a 16 seed. If Quinnipiac does win this, I could see them being a 15 seed. We will see. Moving on to the MAAC, you do have Toledo, the number 1 overall seed. This, to me, is another very condensed tournament. Akron pretty much all year has been the team that's seeded in terms of getting the auto bid in the bracket. They're the 2 seed here, but really there's a lot of parity in this league, so I could see anyone winning it, really. Toledo, Akron, Ohio, those 3 teams would be the ones that I would watch. I'm not really breaking any news there. Those are the top 3 seeds. Great analysis by me. Moving on to the MEAC tournament, Norfolk State, the number 1 overall seed. You do have North Carolina Central. Yeah, I think Norfolk State should win this tournament. I mean, who knows? It's a crappy 16 bid. Whoever wins this is going to be playing in the first four in a 16v16 matchup. And I would say it's going to be Norfolk State, or probably playing. Maybe they'll get a bye. We'll see. Moving on to the Missouri Valley. So here's the crazy thing, guys. Drake beats Indiana State. Remember what I was saying last week. Imagine Indiana State makes their tournament a final and then loses a close game to Drake. Drake is automatically in. And by the way, a lot of people are going to be picking Drake again, I'm sure, to get a first-round upset. They have a very good team, and they were in control of that game against Indiana State. Indiana State brought it back a little bit in the second half, but I do think Indiana State will be in this tournament and get an at-large, because Indiana State, their analytics are liked, and when you're comparing Indiana State to some of these other teams on the bubble, it's not even close. Like Ohio State, Iowa, they're like 40, 50. Indiana State's like a top 30 net team. I think they're going to be in the tournament as an 11 seed personally. I'm sure Drake is going to be seated somewhere around there as well. Moving on to the Mountain West. Oh, here's the mosh pit. I'm just going to say UNLV is going to win this tournament, because who really knows? I mean, these teams, maybe Nevada. Nevada's been playing well. I think Boise State's a paper tiger. New Mexico needs to win 2 games to make sure they get into the tournament. New Mexico got a really good draw, I think, with Boise State in the second round. So they get Air Force, who, by far is the worst team in the Mountain West this year. And Utah State's the number 1 seed. UNLV, they've got a tough draw with San Diego State in that first round, but I don't know. They've been playing well. I could see UNLV doing something. Moving on to the Northeast, you do have Wagner taking on MAAC. I think Wagner wins this game in the championship. Central Connecticut got knocked out by Wagner. Wagner, the 6th seed, versus MAAC. MAAC, technically, when you look at this tournament, should have been in the tournament last year, but because they were making the transition to Division I, they weren't able to be in it, even though they beat Fairleigh Dickinson, and then that allowed Fairleigh Dickinson to upset Purdue. Kind of funny there, but we will see. The Ohio Valley, congratulations are in order to Morehead State for winning the Ohio Valley as the 3 seed. They were liked analytically over Little Rock, and the analytics were proven correct. The 3 seed beats the 1 seed. Little Rock will see you in the CBI. No, that's not very nice. We'll see you in the NIT. Moving on to the Pac-12, you do have Arizona, the number 1 overall seed. I like Arizona. So the Arizona and Duke are 2 teams that lost right at the end of the year that I like to win their conference tournaments. Don't overreact. Arizona is by far the best team in the Pac-12, and they're still playing for a potential 1 seed. Washington State, the number 2 seed. As much as I like Washington State, they've been a great story. They're a very weak 2 seed. Colorado is another team. I think it's going to be Arizona versus Colorado in the championship of the Pac-12. The final year of the Pac-12 existence. Give me Arizona over Colorado. And you also do have Oregon. If Oregon somehow wins, obviously they would be in if they win all their games, but they're going to face Arizona possibly if they beat either UCLA or Oregon State. Could be interesting there. Maybe get them back onto the bubble. Moving on to the Patriot League, you do have Colgate, who barely beat Bucknell by 3 points. Colgate has always been the class of the Patriot League. They're taking on Lehigh. So I do like Colgate to beat the 6th seed Lehigh, but I mean, I don't know. We'll see. It might be interesting considering they barely beat Bucknell, the 5 seed. That game will be happening on Wednesday. Moving on to the SEC, you do have Tennessee, the number 1 overall seed, Kentucky, the number 2 seed, Bama, the number 3 seed. Man, Bama got a tough draw, didn't they? Possibly Florida. The SEC is pretty good looking at this. I mean, they're about a 6-deep league right now. A&M's on the bubble. We'll see if they end up getting in. They're going to have to beat Ole Miss and then somehow probably beat Kentucky. But right now, Kentucky has the most momentum, I would say. Tennessee's another team. Obviously, they're a 1 seed. Auburn is loved analytically. Should be an interesting. I think all the high seeds are going to advance personally. And the only team I could see, maybe Florida upsetting Alabama. The offensive upside is there. We will see. Moving on to the Southern tournament, you do have Samford, the number 1 overall seed, taking on East Tennessee State, the number 7 seed. East Tennessee State beating Chattanooga and beating UNC Greensboro. So they've beaten the 2 and the 3 seed, and now they face Samford. Can East Tennessee State pull off a Cinderella run in their conference tournament. Samford, the number 1 seed, will be interesting. Moving on to the Southland tournament, you do have McNeese, the class of the conference here, getting the double bye. Texas A&M, Corpus Christi also get the double bye. This should not be a competitive tournament. McNeese is clearly better than all of these teams. I would expect them to win and get the auto bid. Moving on to the SWAC, you do have Grambling, the dynasty of Grambling, the number 1 seed here. The winner of this game will be in the first 4 as a 16 seed. I would expect Grambling to win it, but we will see. Moving on to the Summit, you do have South Dakota State. The Summit is really weak this year. They are the number 1 overall seed. How about Denver beating Kansas City by 1 point, the number 2 seed? Another team that's been talked about, at least that's I've seen get filled in as the auto bid, is North Dakota, the number 3 seed, maybe a team to watch. But I would say right now, South Dakota State is the heavy favorite there. Moving on to the Sun Belts. So, yeah, crazy situation. This is not updated. You did have Appalachian State, a team that a lot of us thought could beat a 4 seed in the first round of the NCAA tournament. They lost, and they are out. So, you know, very, very sad story there. We'll see you in the CBI. Moving on to the West Coast. The West Coast is always a crazy tournament with how it's, you know, the triple bye, the quadruple bye for St. Mary's. Yeah, you would expect it to be St. Mary's versus Gonzaga. Santa Clara's kind of had a decent year. San Francisco's always a solid team. Maybe San Francisco can upset Gonzaga, but I would expect it to be St. Mary's versus Gonzaga, with possibly St. Mary's getting revenge on Gonzaga. Moving on to the WAC tournament, Grand Canyon, clearly the best team in this tournament. You would expect them to win. However, if they lose, they're certainly not getting an auto bid in terms of that. But guys, those are all of the conference tournaments. I will be having multiple live streams this week, possibly at night. Friday night, there should be a live stream, maybe Wednesday night. Sunday, during the selection show, I'll be doing a live stream reacting to it, and then I'll be going off air and doing my video on Sunday night where I pick the entire tournament. It's going to be uploaded, and then on Monday, I'm going to do an analytically driven bracket. I'm going to be doing the coin flip bracket probably Monday or Tuesday as well. I'll be going live pretty much every day after the tournament gets released. So the tournament comes out on Sunday. I'm live on Sunday. I make my bracket on Sunday night. The video goes live on Sunday night of my official bracket. I go live on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The first round, I'll probably start streaming that at 7 o'clock at night for the late window, because I have to make other videos, guys. I can't just live stream the entire day. Unless I got like 30K views, then yes, I would live stream the entire day. But that's just what's going to be happening. Make sure you're joining my Discord. Link to that's always in the description. Following me on Twitter. I'm trying to be more active there. Link is in the description. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're